6.
We will also reconnect with Patricia, the Kenyan woman trafficked for labor to Saudi Arabia. Because of the threats on her life, Patricia has been forced to flee with her children to another country. You'll hear much more about human trafficking around the world this Sunday from 10 a.m. Listen live on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the I on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. I on Dependency. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
This Sunday on episode 31 of I on Dependency, where every life is a biography.
Commercial sex is one of the ways that human traffickers ply their trade. As we commemorate World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, I, on Dependency, welcomes the Deputy Director of the Counter-Trafficking Unit, Mrs. Kimoy Thomas Williams, to talk about the high demand for sex, which is fueling the supply of trafficked women and girls. This is Mark, who explains how he hooks up with women to have what he thinks is fun.
I had to come up on the phone like ever so often saying single ladies for hookups, and I hit the ad and one of the ladies going to message me and we start talking and we arrange to meet wherever and have sex.
We will also reconnect with Patricia, the Kenyan woman trafficked for labor to Saudi Arabia. Because of the threats on her life, Patricia has been forced to flee with her children to another country. You'll hear much more about human trafficking around the world this Sunday from 10 a.m. Listen live on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the I on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. I on Dependency. We don't
Reality
just share
radio
stories.
at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the I on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Clients of prostitutes or sex workers are sometimes known as Johns or Tricks in North America and punters in Britain and Ireland. In common parlance among prostitutes as well as with others, the act of negotiating and then engaging with a client is referred to as turning a trick. Female clients are sometimes called Janes, although the vast majority of prostitution clients are male in almost all countries. There are many terms for clients including whoremonger, sex buyer, British slang such as punter, terms for those in a vehicle such as curb crawler, as well as Caribbean slang terms for female clients of gigolos such as milk bottle, long tail, yellowtail, or Stella. The term trick is sometimes associated with North America, and punter is associated with the term for sex workers in clients in places such as Britain and Ireland. These slang terms are used among both prostitutes and law enforcement for persons who solicit prostitutes. The term John may have originated from the frequent customer practice of giving one's name as John, a common name in English-speaking countries, in an effort to maintain anonymity. In some places, men who drive around red light districts for the purpose of soliciting prostitutes are also known as curb crawlers. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Our Independency. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Gus. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. And good morning to you, tuned in to us on I-95.5 FM and live on our Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Red light districts, do you all know how the term where the term originated? Well, back in the day when trains ruled the road and captains or pilots of trains drivers of trains would go from state to state. That's in the States, in the U.S. And if they have to stop in a state for a while, where the drivers would go and seek out prostitutes. Now, what they did was they took the lantern with them, which was almost times a red lantern, and the lantern would be hung in front of the window of the hotel room that the train pilot or driver is occupying. So in case of an emergency, you could have found him at the hotel room. And that's how red light district became the
term to refer to these
a place of ill repute.
activities of the night.
Right. So just a bit of history here on the term red light district, and that's how it originated. Now, today, time has evolved, and we are now dealing with a more serious issue surrounding this issue called human trafficking. And in today's program, you're going to be hearing from Mark, who is a John, or was a John, and we had the chance to sit with him and interview him and recorded it, audio and video. And he told us about how he managed to, or why he decided to become a John for a while. Before that, though, you would hear from the UNODC. Natasha will tell you about that. And then after we speak with Mark, we will speak with Ms. Kimoy Thomas Williams, who is the Deputy Director of the Counter-Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago, to comment on Mark's contribution. After which, we're going to be hooking up with, remember Patricia, folks, who we found out which she was introduced to us by Ms. Wheeler from Kenya. Patricia is from Kenya, and she had her challenges. Remember, she was trafficked to Saudi Arabia, and she fought her way back with the help of foreign agencies, international agencies, and she now had to flee her home with her three children, and almost had to end up sleeping on the streets. So today we'll be speaking with her, because this is how dangerous, even as a survivor of human trafficking, is. You know, you want to advocate and putting your life on the line, and now she's fearing for her life.
Yep.
And so we'll be speaking with her, and we, of course, will take this opportunity as well to let you know, please, those of you who can afford it, you have a credit card, if you can purchase her book on Amazon, it's just $6 US, and to help her, and she'll explain further when we speak with her.
Yep.
But before we move on, Natasha, could you set up the UNODC's message, please?
Right. Today is the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, and it is a UN International Day, and of course the lead agency in promoting the values and theme of this day is the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC. So we have a message from the Director General of the UNODC. Her name is Gada Wali. And her message today on the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons has to do with leaving no one behind. That is the theme for this year's commemoration. And she has some, I think, for me, God, this message from the UNODC this year is very timely, and especially in the context that we are dealing with in Trinidad and Tobago. So
yes, because Patricia is actually being left behind.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that is so sad. Yeah. So with the help of Shortman, Storming Tom, and Dependency, we will educate you on what's it's especially the guys who purchase commercial sex, and those of you who take advantage of people for their labor. I was speaking with a young man, before we go to it, folks, we don't want to belay too much, but I was speaking with a young man who is really struggling to survive for him and his wife, common-law wife, and their 2-year-old daughter. And he doesn't really want to get involved in crime. So he's seeking jobs and going around asking the neighborhood, and this woman, citizen of African descent, actually asked this young man to clean her yard for $30 and give him $30 after, and even give him proper equipment to clean the yard with, a broom without a handle and a cutlass. and had to clean a big yard, and after that she gave him $30. That's labor. That is forced. That's not forced labor, but that is taking advantage of people.
That's exploitation.
That's exploitation, lady. That's cruel. And he didn't want her to buy drugs. He wanted to take care of his family. $30 you give him. That's sad. So, but to the men, we are going to try and reach out to the men today who purchase commercial sex. Whatever you do it for, whether it's a rite of passage or that's you're addicted to it or whatever, understand that you are now contributing to human trafficking. Think about that when you're making your plans for later. It's so ironic. Yesterday, going to the supermarket, I heard a guy sitting talking to another one. He said, boy, like, I don't rent a girl for tonight, yes? And I understand $300. When you $300 I come up with, I swear to God, yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah. And I say, wow, that's so ironic. But yeah, so to the men who do this, understand that you are now contributing to human trafficking, all right? And sex trafficking. That's what you're contributing to. So when you leave your wife and your children or your significant other, you leave your bachi and you go out, know that that person you're going to take advantage of is being trafficked. Let's go to the UNODC message.
Yep.
We take a break, and when you return, you will hear from Mark, who spoke about his exploits as a John. Let's go to the message.
Around the world today, millions of victims of human trafficking are going unnoticed. Many of them walk among us in everyday life, on street corners and construction sites, or in factories and public venues. Human trafficking is a crime that hides not just in the shadows, but in plain sight. Yet our responses are falling short, leaving many unprotected. According to data in UNODC's Global Report on Trafficking in Persons 2022, more than 50% of cases of human trafficking are brought forward by victims or their families, with authorities struggling to detect and protect trafficking victims. This is a concerning new trend compared to previous years. Meanwhile, convictions of traffickers are falling, allowing them to act with greater impunity, and more structured criminal organizations are exploiting a higher number of victims for extended periods of time. Those targeted are often the most vulnerable in society, left behind by poverty, conflict, and climate-related disasters. In search of a better life, victims become shackled by the false promises of traffickers. Women and girls, who account for around 60% of detected victims, are more likely to suffer sexual exploitation and higher levels of violence at the hands of their captors. While men and boys are being increasingly exploited for forced labor and criminal activities. We need to step up our efforts to reach every trafficking victim by strengthening detection, investigating cases, and prosecuting the criminals involved. We also need to proactively identify, assist, and support survivors of this crime to truly leave no one behind. This requires support from all sectors of society, from healthcare to social services to law enforcement. The general public can help too, by reporting suspicious activities and services that may exploit trafficking victims. While the voice of civil society is crucial in raising awareness, as well as mobilizing and providing support to those in need. On this World Day against trafficking in persons, let us join forces and commit to reaching every trafficking victim and survivor, to give them hope and support on their journey towards justice and recovery.
Hola, my name is Elena. Well, it's actually not my real name. You don't really care, do you? All you care about is once you pay your money to my boss that I look pretty, smell nice, smile for you, and let you have good time, enjoying yourself and doing to me whatever you want to do for the money you paid. What you don't see or know is that I don't get any part of the money you paid. My boss takes all of it. I am forced to work, taking as many clients as my boss tells me to. I am beaten, made to take drugs, and I cannot leave this kind of work on my own. I am a victim of human trafficking. Please, por favor, help me.
Dependency, with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays, at 10 a.m., and exclusively, on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live, on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page, and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. So you heard the message from the UNODC about leaving no one behind, neither victim nor survivor, and also the focus on detection, arrest, prosecution, which, as we know in Trinidad and Tobago, has been a serious concern. But we are now going to hook up with the CTU guy.
So now we're going to interview.
Right.
We're going to play that interview with Mark.
Yes.
This is a gentleman who decided to speak with us to tell us what he understood or what he did not understand. But all he knew that he was trying to satisfy his needs, and this is why he decided to purchase commercial sex. And so he's in this very short, frank interview. 10 minutes, we sat with him, and you will hear. And after we speak with him, we will hook up with Ms. Kimoy Thomas Williams, who is the Deputy Director of the Counter Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, to those of you who have time to go to the Savannah this afternoon from 3 o'clock, there'll be an event that she will tell you about, explain further to you when we hook up with her. So, and guess whose birthday it is tomorrow, please God? Despite all the evil we're talking about, tomorrow is Natasha's birthday. So,
yes,
you know, Dependency could not have been possible without Natasha. So, and those of you who are listening, I want you to understand that. Can't go into detail, but Natasha has given human service to Trinidad and Tobago for the past 21 years on this program. And I think she deserves all the commendation that she can get for someone who multitasks and help to keep this program, help me to keep this program on air. So, Natasha, to the people of Trinidad and Tobago, I say happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. I'm accepting all birthday wishes. And before we go to Mark, just to say as well that I'm sure we know someone who buys sex, who purchases sex, right? But how do we respond to it? How do we try to deflect from it? How do we dismiss it as, it's just, man fulfilling their needs? But as Garth was saying earlier, if there was no demand for sex, there would be no supply. And often the supply is based on women and girls who are trafficked, who are held against their will, who are coerced or tricked or trapped into a situation over which they have no control. And the men who are purchasing the sex are none the wiser. And it's an industry that can be very violent, very dangerous, especially for the persons who are forced to work in this fashion. So you will hear again from Mark, who describes how he goes about procuring the service, and which is very mundane. It may seem like, an ordinary thing for people to do, but behind the scenes, it's a very different story.
Yes, that PSA from the CTU about Elena, that's not a joke. They really get, some of them are forced to take drugs, some of them are beaten, some of them, you wouldn't believe some of the atrocities that goes on. For these young ladies, when you go to meet them, they may look nice downstairs, but you don't know what goes on behind the scenes with them. And think about if your daughter ended up with that, while you pay for one of them, when you lie on them and look in their eyes, see your daughter in that place.
Yep.
And see how that feels. Let's go to Mark. Remember, you can join us on our Dependency Facebook or YouTube, EYE on Dependency on Facebook or YouTube, to follow us as well and see what we're showing. We could describe it for the radio audience. So let's go to Mark. Mark, talking about your national of Trinidad and Tobago, correct?
Yes, sir. I was into drugs and...
What kind of drugs you into?
Marijuana, and then I started crystal meth, and that led to a road of destruction.
How do you feel when you use crystal meth?
It keeps it up for days. I tend to hallucinate and stuff on it because after so many days or weeks that you're on it, it like make you feel like a zombie basically.
How did you take it?
Well, I smoked it. So that was the ways to have some people that they shoot it, in the veins.
Did you make it yourself or you bought it?
I bought it. I never manufactured.
A little bit about human trafficking now. What do you know about human trafficking?
I just will be going somewhere and meet a girl, take them to a hotel and we have sex and stuff.
Did you ever pay for commercial sex?
Yes, I have.
Tell us about that. What made you decide to do that? And how often did you do it?
Well, just for entertainment. What made me do it? Because it's less work where you have to wait on a girl to, on her time, and if I want to get it right then and there, just pay a price and you get it done.
How often?
How often?
Well, I do it probably every couple months or sometimes every other weekend.
Let's go a little more in depth. Where did that happen? In the US or Trinidad?
In Trinidad.
The reason you decided to purchase commercial sex, you didn't have a girlfriend, right?
No.
All right. So how did you find the person or the establishment to do it?
Well, I'll be walking down the street or I'll be on the internet. An ad or something come up and I click the ad and then immediately I get a message from one of the ladies and we start chatting and stuff and organize to meet.
So that happens in Trinidad?
Yeah.
What does the ad say?
It say if you want to meet local girls and stuff, and you hit the ad, and then like immediately you'll get a message from a lady, and you start talking, and one thing leads to another.
And where would you meet these women generally?
Well, in different areas, like in Port of Spain, or I met one in Sao before.
Would you go to a home, apartment, a bar?
Well, occasionally we go to a hotel or or we go to her house or whoever's house, you know, a friend or whatever. No, well, it's like I had to come up on the phone like ever so often.
Saying what?
Saying, well, I was single ladies for hookups or for one night stands, stuff like that. And I hit the ad and immediately one of the ladies going to message me or on the ad or whatever. And we start talking and we arrange to meet wherever and have sex.
The different prices, what you pay for, what's that like? Is there a menu that you can choose from and how much money that you're willing to spend?
Yeah, if it was some head or wet head, it would be anywhere from 100 to 150.
So a head or wet head, that's a blow job?
Yeah, blow job.
Right.
Like if you want like the whole package, like our head and sex, it would be like anywhere from 300 to 500, according to wherever they say.
Have you ever seen an ad for foreign women, like Latin women or African women? Have you ever seen those?
Well, no. It's just one be coming up and it's like a variety. You know? It have others too, but it's variety. It's a variety package.
And what was your choice was what? Black locals?
Anything. All.
What would the process be like? You travel to meet the person.
Yes.
You agree, right?
Yes.
And then you arrange a time.
Yeah, we arrange a time and a place to meet, and we arrange where we going and how much it will cost, and we just move from there.
You have to pay up front?
Yeah, well, some take money up front, some take money after, some take half, and then after we done, we take the next half, in case if everything goes south.
Do you know if these people were working for somebody or working on their own?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
When you get to the location, right, are there any safety precautions that the person would take, or and they ask any questions of you, or what? How is that the interaction is like?
Well, no, I would be like, well, I'm such and such, and let's go to our destination, maybe a hotel or to a house, and we have sex, and I pay and I leave.
Did you ever equate that to human trafficking?
Well, I had my suspicions.
Human or sex trafficking, did you ever connect the two? What suspicion did you have?
Well, that's by her body language. You know, that will tell me a lot.
What was the body language like?
Like she will be kind of fidgeting, kind of like rushy a little bit.
Nervous or?
Yeah, and nervous, and like the breathing will be kind of heavy. And before we go to the room, I'll be looking around to make sure, like, if somebody there or whatever. I had one after ask, well, are you okay? And she was like, yeah.
Were you at any point afraid for your safety? Because you don't know where she's taking you.
Yes. I don't know. Yeah, a few times. Like, I don't know if she has somebody up there waiting, you know, or anything. But Thank God that never happened. Everything went smooth. We had sex, and I leave.
Did you ever meet anyone who took drugs or alcohol before they did anything or offered you drugs or anything like that?
No.
Did you ever try to get close to any one of them, like beyond paying for it, like you want to sit and engage them in conversation and all of that? Did you ever try to do that?
No. Every time we met, it's about money. They have to pay them. Every time we met, it's sexual.
That's Mark. That's Mark, and he gave his take on how he goes about. One thing that is very significant about it is that some of them, as you would hear, they actually have people watching them. And they will know when they go into a room, and they will know what time they finish or how long they take.
And they will collect the money afterwards.
Right. Now, as we keep saying, if there's no demand for it, then that would put us a serious dent in the business. But all we can do for you, Trinidad and Tobago, as we are accustomed, and I'm sorry we could have issued a disclaimer at the top that some of it, the language would have been really triggering for some, especially on a Sunday morning. You're just going from church and you're hearing about blowjob and all of these things. But Dependency also promised you reality radio.
Reality radio, yep.
And we have been doing it for the last 21 years. And we too are putting our lives on the line for you, people, if you all don't understand. Because check any frequency in Trinidad and Tobago, how often they deal with this. It was only when it comes up. But again, it's not our role to go after the perpetrators of this crime. We have agencies in the country that are tasked to do with that. And we'll be speaking with Mrs. Kimoy Thomas Williams, who has joined us via video call, to spend a few minutes with us, because she has a lot of activities today as well when, as her day progresses. So we are happy for her to spend a little time with us here this morning, and as we welcome her. Good morning, Mrs. Williams.
Hi, good morning, Garth and Sharon. Good morning. Natasha, sorry, I was saying Sharon because I was speaking to somebody named Sharon just now. Sorry about that, Natasha. Good morning, everyone in Trinidad and Tobago too.
Well, Mrs. Williams, you have a long day ahead, so we just wanted your take, and of course, you bring remarks on behalf of the Counter-Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago and your director, Ms. Dr. Samantha Chitram. But you listen to Mark. Tell us your thoughts as from the human trafficking side and the Counter-Trafficking Unit eyes about what you just heard.
Right. Yeah, that is a very serious issue that we have in Trinidad and Tobago, and it's always amazing to hear the side of the buyers, the persons who purchase sex. He would have made some very interesting comments, and really and truly, most men, they are paying for sex. The bottom line is they are paying for sex because they know there are no consequences to it. So believe it or not, about 90% of the men who pay for sex in Trinidad and Tobago would know or have some inclination to know that the women that they are paying sex for could possibly be victims of trafficking. But they look at it as an opportunity to, live out their fantasies. And we've seen an increase in it as well because there's so much pornography available now online. I mean, persons can get access to it from as early as 11 years old. Once you have a device, a technological device, and you have access to the internet and social media platforms, you have access to pornography. So, of course, when these young men in particular, they see these things in these short videos, and sometimes they don't feel comfortable to discuss it with their partner because many of them happen to be in serious relationships or are married. they decide that, they could live out their fantasies by paying $300 or $500. Another reason why they do it is for power, because, many of them, they would have grown up in abusive relationships, or, women may have taken advantage of them in the past. So they see it as a way to be the dominant person. And no matter what they say, the woman has to do it, because at the end of the day, when they pay this $300 or $500 for half an hour, remember, they take ownership of that person for that period of time. So it comes like if you buy a bottle of water or you buy a vehicle, nobody could come and tell you what to do with it. If you want to give away the bottle of water, you want to drink it down in one gulp or take 2 sips and throw away the bottle after. It's your bottle. You could do whatever you want. And it's the same thing when they pay for women. They can do whatever they want to the woman. So if they tell her go on her knees and bark like a dog, she has to do it, right? So these are some of the factors that contribute to it. Many of them in society, they are also very lonely. So it could be that they're not lucky with women, or they don't have social skills. So instead of going through the embarrassment of asking a woman out on a date, or they taking them out on a date, and then at the end of the day, the woman say, well, drop me home, I only come out for the drink or food, because I've actually heard persons tell me that, those are true life examples. They would just pay their money, get off, and it's done with. And then what is quite remarkable is that some men pay for women in the hope of getting a wife. And we've seen that, where many men would end up with women who were providing sexual services, paid for sexual services, and they make them into wives, because it's much easier than going through the whole hassle of, courting. And then many women in Trinidad and Tobago are very independent. So, they are not dependent on men. Whereas when persons in vulnerable situations, because you tend to find victims of trafficking to be persons who are very vulnerable. It could be that they are illegal migrants, like, the problem we have now with the Venezuelans, how they are being taken advantage of. We have Haitians, we have Guyanese, we even have some Trinidadian women who may be vulnerable because, they might be in a domestic violence situation, they may not be working. So these men who pay for them, eventually they become somewhat of a savior to them, because, every time they go to visit them, to get their service, they might bring a bottle of perfume for them, or they might bring them food. So they more or less turn out to be this guardian angel for the woman, and the women think that they fall in love with these people, and then the men end up taking them out of that situation. So some men see it as an investment as well, and this problem is going to continue until our laws change to also target the buyers, because remember, human trafficking is a business, and it is like basic economics. Without a supply, there can't be a demand, right? Once there's a demand, there will always be a supply. Let me put it that way. So if we could also target the demand, then the supply will eventually dry up. And what I was seeing recently in the UK is that they are right now preparing a law that would treat with the buyers of sex, but not just sex in general, but persons who are buying sex from victims of trafficking. And the law will go even further to say you cannot say, well, when I paid for sex, I didn't know this person was a victim. Because they would have done a lot of research, and they saw that over 95% of men who have sex with victims of trafficking know that these women are victims of trafficking. And certain signs will tell you that. The woman might not be able to speak your language. The woman might be timid. She might be fearful. She may have bruises, and you have to ask yourself, why are these women willing and to line up against a wall for men to choose them? Is it that they have some sick fantasy as well? Is it that they just like sex? No, it's because persons are forcing them to do that. And it's one thing if a man goes and gives a woman $1,000 and she willingly and without any barriers accepts that $1,000. So she's on her own then, and she just wants to make a quick 1,000. That is something different to where a man is actually going into a bar, a spa, a restaurant, whatever you call it, seeing women and choosing a woman. Common sense will dictate to you that that person is doing that against her will. So it is only when our laws get onto that level, we would see a dent being made into human trafficking. Yes, we have the laws to deal with the traffickers and stuff, but the traffickers are in business because men are still buying sex. And that is the problem that we are dealing with in Trinidad and Tobago.
Absolutely. I wanted to focus on that issue of consequences. So I'm glad that you brought up the law, because it seems to the public that when we see raids being conducted on these establishments, these brothels, the only people we see in handcuffs are the women and girls who are working there.
Correct.
And that you're saying is because of how the law is written.
Yeah, because many times when the police officers do raids, they would find men there, They would find men either in the act of getting the sex service done or leaving the place, but the law does not treat with those men as yet. So, as you know, our law it was more or less completed, the review of it. But because of the changes going on in Europe now, we are going to try to mirror that as well and see if we could include that in our law, so that now when raids are being done and men are found at these places, they could be charged as well. And you see, the English law even goes further to put these persons up. So you know how we have the sex registry, these men as well would be publicized in the UK. So similarly, we could do that in Trinidad, because the last thing that a Trinidadian wants is for a makeout scene, especially since most of these men are married, they have children, they have grandchildren, so they will think twice before they go into these places.
Well said.
Absolutely.
And another thing too that Mark spoke about was sometimes an ad would pop up on his phone, or they would remember there are ads in newspaper too.
Yes.
In newspapers do. What's the collaboration like with Corner Trafficking Unit and print media now to let them know that they can actually be indirectly supporting human trafficking and sex trafficking?
Right.
You all ever reached that distance?
So in the past, there was no real collaboration between the city and the media with regard to that issue. We've always been in contact with them. So, we would inform them when there were operations. We would just more or less sensitize them to the basics of human trafficking and the dangers faced by potential victims. But as you know, we have the National Plan of Action, which would take us down to 2025. So each year from 2023, which is the year we are in now, to 2025, we have a list of activities that we are going to cover, one of which is to engage the media on this very issue, because they also play a very pivotal role in pushing the market, even though they are doing so unintentionally. So we need to expose them to that as well. And it's not just traditional media, but also social media as well. Because on Instagram and Facebook, you see the flyers popping up, with these girls, and they're saying $500 for an escort and things like that. So all of these things we have to look into. And I think, honestly, another way to deal with it is just the continued mass sensitization, because honestly, a lot of persons, they see it as a normal business transaction, as in we both win. I need a service, you need money. So it's an even exchange. But if they know what is really going on behind the scenes, they would also think twice.
Correct. And and of course, we are now on the watch list, and we have to step up. As you said, there's a lot of work planned this year with resensitization. And what about the prosecution side and conviction? Right. How are we looking there?
Right. So the work is still ongoing very much between the state and the judiciary, so that everybody would be on the same page and we would get the convictions. I know the matters have started moving faster. So we are hopeful that things would be more positive in a short space of time. I know there are a lot of ongoing trainings for the judiciary, the state prosecutors, the TTPS. There are also joint trainings as well, so that they would know how to work together with these cases.
Go ahead.
Yeah. The final question for you, Mrs. Williams, is with regard to what is happening today. Today is the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, and of course, Trinidad and Tobago is commemorating the day with an event. Could you tell us more about what's happening today?
Right. Yes. So today is a very special day for all persons involved in the fight against human trafficking. So in order to commemorate the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, the city, in collaboration with the International Organization for Migration, as well as the National Drug Council, will be having a walk around the Queen's Park Savannah. It's actually a 5K, so we'll be passing through parts of Sinclair as well to commemorate the day. There will also be information booths from various agencies. So, for example, there'll be information from the CTU, there'll be information from the Criminal Injuries Compensation Unit, from the Ministry of Labour, from a number of NGOs and other state entities. We also have a lot of support from the youths. For example, the MLAT officers will be there, which is so good because the last time they assisted us with our show down at the Brian Lara Promenade last year. We'll have entertainment. There's going to be an aerobic and Zumba burnout. So it's going to be a very fun yet commemorative day. And we are asking everybody to come out. The actual walk starts at 4 p.m. The booths will be available from 2 p.m. So persons could come, get flyers, information, little tokens. And with regard to the walk, the first 500 persons to complete the walk will be given medals. And there are also hampers for those who excel in the burnout. So it's going to be a very good and special day this afternoon.
All right, Mrs. Williams, we want to thank you so much for your time and, of course, putting your life on the line for Trinidad and Tobago as well, because we know how dangerous this can get. And we appreciate you, and we appreciate the work of the Counter-Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security. So God bless you all. Take care until we meet again.
Thank you, and I hope to see you and Natasha out there later.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, folks, so that if you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we just had a little chat with Miss Kimoy Thomas Williams from the Counter-Trafficking Unit, Deputy Director of the Counter-Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. Young lady putting their lives on the line for Trinidad and Tobago, Natasha, whether we think that, it's just an agency, but the work that they do, you wouldn't believe how deep this trafficking thing runs.
Yep.
That it is so high as well, the people involved, whether it's child trafficking, which is a thing, and we're hoping that we can get the sound of freedom down here for you all to see. It exists, people. There are people out there, big men and women, but mostly men, who are sitting and planning their next hunt with a child. With a child, 8, 9, 10 years old, or even younger, boy or girl. And then there's the John who's planning later to what senorita he's going to purchase. Not understanding that you, sir, are contributing to the degradation of a human being. That's what you're doing. You just want to get off, and that's how you see it. But you are actually you are a contributor to human trafficking and someone's pain and their family's pain.
Yes, and I do want to underscore the fact that the men who do this are very average, very ordinary. Some of them in high positions, some not. But these are men who, they're not monsters. And it's the same category for me of men who commit sexual assault and other violent acts. In their daily lives, they are average and ordinary, and you wouldn't think twice about them or question their character, their morals. But when the night comes and they decide to slink into that bar and do and purchase sex from a minor, which is an offense in and of itself, and then go back home to their wives and their children, and everybody, passes them straight.
Well, how do you feel about that, folks? What Mrs. Williams said about naming and shaming, literally, and arrest the men and you put them on the sex offenders registry. How do you feel about that? Leave us a comment on Facebook or YouTube while you're there.
Yep.
And we thank you very much for joining us. We're going to take a break. But when we return, we're going to be speaking now with Patricia. Patricia, as you all those of you loyal followers and listeners, remember we spoke with Patricia from Kenya, who was trafficked to Saudi Arabia, and she had to cry out for help. we'll play a short news item from Kenya
to remind you of her story.
And we want you to support her too as well. Those of you listening to us, especially from Canada and the US, if you can purchase her book on Amazon, please. It's just about $6 and
it's called Greener Pastures in the Desert. So you could, while we go on a break, you can search for it on Amazon and purchase it. I think it's just $10 or less.
Yeah.
And it will go towards supporting her family in their time of need, because as Garth mentioned earlier, they have had to flee their home country of Kenya because of threats on her life. This is how serious it is, because she has spoken up about what has happened to her. People don't want her story to be out there. So she has had to leave her country and go to another, and with her children. And, she's currently, begging her lodgings. Or she will tell us what her situation is now, but anything that we can do to support her will help her to get back on her feet.
Yes, so again, we appeal to you who join us via social media or even radio. On radio, we'll tell you where you can give you the information to purchase the book.
Yep.
And let's from Trinidad and Tobago, let's do something for our citizens out there in Kenya. We have to be our brother's keeper, whether home or abroad. And as the UN message says, leave no one behind. And this is what we will do in our part, because Patricia intends to continue pursuing this. Mm-hmm. She even wants to collaborate with us to do a movie. So you never know. People like this start off like this, but then later on, they would just be taken seriously, and they'll be able to make inroads. You never know. We just have to do our part. So let's go to a break, and when we return, we'll hook up with her via video from Kenya. Before that, we will play that 3-minute news item from Kenya, so you'll get a gist of what happened with Patricia and what the condition and the present position that she's in. Stay with us. We'll be back.
Something out. Them new people are never be roady. Where's that? Girl, the man that he passing up and down in front of here with a set of woman.
I really noticed some woman living there, And they can't even say as much as good morning.
Well, listen now. I wonder if it's human trafficking. You think it's that?
So, how can you spot and identify perpetrators and victims of trafficking? Many victims are found living and working together in the same place and sleep in shared and inappropriate spaces. Victims work excessively long hours. They often sleep in the daytime and work long nights. They are often escorted everywhere they go and may appear to be malnourished. They may show signs of physical abuse, drug and alcohol use, and may also appear withdrawn, fearful, or intimidated. Victims who are migrants are often not in possession of their identity or immigration documents and have irregular immigration status. Perpetrators can be male or female, and may appear to be managing or controlling the victims. And they may even at times appear to be the victim's best friend, boyfriend, or employer.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays, at 10 a.m., and exclusively, on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency, and today is the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, 30th of July, and we are doing our part, of course, on Eye on Dependency to commemorate the day. We just heard from Kimoy Thomas Williams from the Counter Trafficking Unit, Trinidad and Tobago, about the issue of sex trafficking, and now we're going to switch gears a little bit and go to the continent to speak again with Patricia, who was a survivor of trafficking for labor. And before we hook up with Patricia, we have a video to play for you.
Yes, and I will ask you all please to forgive the noise in the background. We cannot do anything about that, although we've begged and pleaded over and over and over. And I know it spoils the quality of the broadcast, but we cannot do anything about it. We've tried. However, we thank you for those of you who bearing with us and bearing with it, and join us on Facebook and YouTube as well. And remember to leave your comment. Remember to leave your comment about what you think should happen when police raid a joint and they arrest people. Their pictures too must end up on the newspaper alongside the people who they went to solicit.
Correct.
Not just the people who they were soliciting alone. And I'm sure
that will
be a deterrent.
Yes.
Oh yeah, because most of these men are married men.
Correct.
And they have families if they're not married, and they have daughters, and yet they would, for whatever it is, whether it's addiction, for a rite of passage, for curiosity, whatever, they have to know we live in a different time now, in a different space now. And now you're contributing to human trafficking.
And that kind of behavior is not acceptable. Societally it's acceptable because we turn a blind eye, but we need to send a message that is not on.
Yes. So it's kind of difficult to be competing with that noise, but I'm really trying to hold it together here, folks. Trust me. Okay, so just to remind you, about what and I hope young men are listening, especially young men, young brothers. Before we go to this, I want to add this quick. Apart from you exploiting a person, you have a family. You hearing that?
Yeah.
This is so unprofessional. I'm having a hard time dealing with this. Is so unprofessional. I've listened to radio around the world. I've never heard anything like this before in my life. Apart from you exploiting someone, don't you know that spiritually too as well, it is wrong? Do you know spiritually it can harm you and your family? Because picture this, you are going to lay with someone who before you slept with 10 men. Because that's what this young lady has to do, who you're going into that room with, before you get to her. You might go 5 o'clock, that might be your plan, or after work 7 o'clock. But she working before that, she not sitting there waiting on you alone. She go and bathe and clean up and use wet wipes and come back in the room to meet you, And you going now and lie with this person who has so many spirits around her, inside her. And you now going and add your spirit to that. And you going now and whatever is left there, you will get it.
And you would, most of these, I don't know what the rate of condom use is, but a lot of these men do not use protection.
But condoms don't stop spirit. Condoms don't stop bad aura. And this is what I'm talking about. You could wear a condom suit. The thing is, once you lay between the legs of someone who lay with 10 men before you, there's some spiritual connotation to that. And you taking that and carrying that back home to your family and hug your wife and hug your child. You think you're going back home with that spirit, It's an ugly spirit. And it brings disharmony to the home eventually.
Of course.
So think about that. So you just decide, my home going good enough now. Let me go and look for a prostitute to sleep with and go back home with a bad spirit. And then all of a sudden your family starts to crumble. And nobody could understand why. Not even you. Well, making you understand that this morning, that is what happens too, as well, apart from exploiting the person. So think about that. Let's go to the news item, and just to jog your memory about Patricia, and this is a young lady, we are asking you to, if you can afford it, purchase her book on Amazon. Let's go to the news item.
Concerns abroad but affecting Kenyans. For thousands of women that board a flight to Saudi Arabia to secure jobs as domestic workers, it is a gamble on whether they will face abuse at the hands of their employers. The increase in reports of inhumane working conditions in the Middle East has been a thorn in the side of Kenya's labor force. Gina Kirori spoke to a 25-year-old who is currently stuck in Saudi Arabia and is desperate to come back home.
When Patricia Wanja was cleaning the home of her Saudi Arabia employer, a gun placed on the coffee table sent chills down her spine, only adding to the web of trauma that she has endured in the weeks that she has been working as a domestic worker in the Middle East Kingdom.
I was just so terrified. I was just so terrified. I just held it with a rag, the rag I was cleaning with, and I felt it was lighter and I just left it.
While Wanja expected to earn 30,000 shillings a month in Saudi Arabia, the agency that facilitated her employment, identified as Mahara Human Resources Company, ended up paying her 25,983 shillings.
I look at myself and I see the things going on, but when I remember that if I complain, I may be in prison, I just hold back. I just hold back and work as if nothing is wrong. Mahara, please.
Wanja says that she has fallen ill during the weeks that she has been at her employer's home, but no efforts have been made to take her to any medical facility, which goes against the terms of her contract.
Another time I was cleaning the flasks and one of them broke and the lady just threw it at me like that. And she was asking her husband, what do we do with her? And I got so scared.
Her motivation for returning home is to see her two children once again, especially since they are aged 1 and 7 respectively.
When I was coming here, I had told my daughter that I'm coming here so that we can build a home for ourselves, so that I can have some savings. And
the desperation for lucrative job offers in Middle Eastern countries has been behind the decision by many women to travel to a foreign land, as they say job opportunities in Kenya are hard to come by. The surge in reports of women being exploited and abused by their employers in the Middle East led to the government requiring all agencies recruiting Kenyans seeking employment in Saudi Arabia to pay 1.5 million shillings as a security bond in 2019. The agreement also required any Kenyan domestic worker to be paid an average salary of 30,000 shillings. Wanja is now appealing to the government to help bring her and many other girls suffering from abuse back home. Gena Kirori, NTV.
Tickets are available at tickets.com.
Right, so that was a snippet of a news item out of Kenya featuring Patricia Wanja Kimani, who took an opportunity to travel to Saudi Arabia for work. And a lot of when we spoke to her earlier, she identified a lot of red flags, obviously, in that process, but she was not aware of. So she ended up in Saudi Arabia in some very dangerous situations, physically debilitating situations, and was fortunate enough to get her story out there. While she was in Saudi Arabia, she reached out to journalists in Kenya, and she exposed, what was happening to her, and she was returned home. But now that when she did return home, that didn't end. Her ordeal did not end there. She remained under threat of her life because of how she spoke out about her situation, and she has now had to flee to neighboring Uganda with her children for her
Yes.
safety.
So Patricia will be joining us in a while. Remember, she's way out there. Well, we don't know what part of the continent she is now, but we'll find out when we hook up with her in a moment. And I just want to ask you out there too as well. You know, it's so ironic. This day falls on Emancipation as well.
Yep.
And it's so ironic that I don't want to go on my soapbox this morning, folks, but
You might have to.
it's really sad. It's really sad that everybody don't feel this the way we do, and it breaks my heart to understand that, or when I understand that not all people believe in this emancipation thing. Not all people believe in Trinidad and Tobago, that is, you know, that we should be looking out for each other. All people don't believe that. You know, there are some people, they have good salaries, they have good jobs, and they don't business. Even people who should business do business. And it's NGOs like ours who continue to do the heavy lifting and do the dirty work and you know, and still getting, as we say on the ground, fight down from doing it while we're doing it. And it breaks my heart, honestly. I grieve sometimes with Trinidad and Tobago and the way we see each other here and the way we do business. And, you know, instead of people support us, especially here on our independency, the majority of people who fought us down are African people. And the UN gave us 10 years to get our act together. And when you speak your truth, people are annoyed at us and pissed at us in some cases. And refuse, although they refer to us as stakeholders, they refuse to join with us. And it breaks my heart. You all don't know half the story, you know, people. You all don't know half the story. And in a time like this, when we should be fighting the war together, and Edward, you keep asking, how can we as a nation end human trafficking in Trinidad and Tobago? Well, some of the PSAs that we play speak to that. But we gave you another solution, and we say good morning to some youngsters from the northeast region of
Civilian
CCC.
Conservation Corps.
And we thank you very much. And while we're waiting on Patricia, Pearl and Two Springer made a comment, people. And of course, if you just joined us to listen to Dependency, and we thank you for joining us, about what the government doing, what the government doing for black people. What have they done? I think that was the comment. And I want to ask a counter question. What has black people done for black people? What has African people done for African people in Trinidad and Tobago? What? In your own sphere? What have you done? Talking about CCC, that is one of the programs that was targeted many times and shut down. And I could say without fear or favor, malice or ill will, the People's National Movement is one responsible for revitalizing the CCC program. Without fear or favor, it is truth. It is the truth. You all could hate me for saying it. It is the truth. The thing is, you know how much African children that program helping? And the MyLad program? You know many African children? And yes, the government could do more by extending the program. I agree with that one. Because each region, 8 regions, 1 in Tobago, 7 in Trinidad, if each of them gets 200 trainees. But you need to up the staff. You need to up the salary for that to happen. But we could save more people. That's part of what the government doing. Now, what I'm asking is what African people doing for African people in Trinidad and Tobago? That is my burning question. And it's so ironic, Natasha, that we hear in the story about the vendors around the savannah and the police moving them last evening. Now, first of all, we've never heard a valid explanation from the Emancipation Support Committee as to why these vendors must relocate. That is my first question.
They were relocated on their instruction. Do we know that?
What?
If the vendors were relocated by police on the instruction of the ESC.
Before that, the first instance, we've had Emancipation celebration here before.
Yes.
We've had visitors here before. But why this time do we have to move the vendors to facilitate that? This is my concern. They've never given an explanation for it. So I'm confused by that. I mean, what, he has to land a plane there? Or you're having his village set up there? What was the reason? Secondly, okay, you move them. Last evening we hear in a report, no, we don't know the whole story, but the news said that police shut them down. and ask the patrons to leave would buy their food. Now I'm asking, do we understand that these vendors, they would have spent money to buy products, to buy food, to sell? Even though you relocated them, they still got patronized. And then, you know the state they went home in last evening? Did we ever stop? Is there a better way to do things? I've been dealing with a young man, he's 24 years. Semi-literate, living with a girl, 2-year-old child. I don't know if you all, I bought some stuff from him. He sold on the corner of Park and Henry Street in Port-au-Prince, right by the church. Sold fruits. Okay, he arrived. We have Patricia on the line. Let me just finish this point. He applied for registration to sell on the streets. Whatever they call it, that permit to sell on the streets. Okay. The people who issuing these permits, don't you think, while, I don't know why it's taking so long. I don't know why somebody can apply for a permit today and come back for it tomorrow, get it the same day. Okay. Don't you think it's prudent to give the applicant a letter or a receipt or something and let it be known that if police come upon a person, show me that permission you have while they're waiting on the registration form. Remember what we did for the licensing for COVID? Mm-hmm. Okay. Instead, police seized the boy cart, put him out of job, put him out of employment, and he has to just sit and wait while police seize his cart. Now, that's the story he gave, that's the story we heard. If it is true, then what is he to do? That is the same young man who I spoke about where the lady exploited, asked him to clean her yard for $30. You see the domino effect? Are we really looking out for each other in Trinidad and Tobago? This is what grieves me. And it pains to wake up in a country every day feeling sad. That is how I feel sometimes, but I tell you all, I'm not going to end up like Wayne Chance. My colleague Wayne, you all kill him. That's not going to happen to me. I want to take off my boots before I die. And to see this, what we run into Trinidad and Tobago here all the time, I'm getting tired of it. So we need to make sense at some point. Having said that, thank you for listening to my rant. Let's go to Patricia, who is online. And Patricia, thank you for spending the time to speak with us this morning despite your circumstances. Tell us, how is it going?
Where are you?
Where are you now? If you can tell us.
Hi, Garth and Natasha. I hope you can hear me.
Yes,
My
we
voice
are.
wasn't so clear in the morning, and I had to, I had to take some medication for that. But I am doing well now. But it's been a crazy month from the last time we spoke. Yeah. So I was on the run. I was receiving threats as usual, but that last time was more serious because the person threatening me was mentioning that they have the backing of a government official. So that's what really scared me, because the government official that was mentioned is quite controversial even on social media. So I really feared for my life, and I just took my kids and we left. Remember, this is not the first. That was not the first time I was getting the threats, but at least at that time I had a birth certificate for my son, so it was easy to leave. Then, before then, it was difficult. You know, without my son's birth certificate, it would only mean that my daughter and I would leave the country and leave the boy behind, and that was not the best option. So I decided I can now go with him because at least he had a birth certificate. Yeah, but it's been crazy. We've not settled down yet. And it was inevitable that I go back to my country to apply for my son's passport. And I'm glad that is done now. I'm still not able to disclose where I am to the public, but it's been hectic.
What was the since we spoke with you, and we were a little fearful too for you as well, but you almost ended up on the street.
Yes, that's true. But I first want to assure you that me having to leave the country is not anything to do with you, but
it's due to the system in Kenya or the dysfunctional it's the dysfunction of the systems in Kenya. Because I believe everybody should have the right to speak out against some of these weak points that the government is not addressing, these vices. I believe everybody must have an equal chance to speak against the shortcomings or the failures of the government without having to fear for their lives. Because at the end of the day, we are still the ones that choose these leaders to effect the changes that we want. But I want to reiterate that this was not the first time I was receiving the threats. I've been getting the threats since 2021 when I was still in the situation of exploitation. And because my story was viral, I got the threats even more than from random people, from the government, from just a lot of people, you know. So this time it's only because I had a birth certificate for my son. That is why it was easy for me to leave the country at least. But the moment we left the country, remember, we had nothing. We only had a bus ticket from Kenya to the next place that we were targeting to go and seek asylum. But when we got there, they said they cannot even provide, the UNHCR said they cannot even provide accommodation until I am fully registered, until I am given the temporary permit and things like that. And that is a process that takes over 6 months. So for 6 months, I would have to do without accommodation in the streets or wherever, because if I had no money to even rent a hotel room, it only meant that I would have to be in the streets with my kids, and then I get arrested, and then I get deported to my country. So at that point, I feel that the UNHCR is directly to point fingers at, because my case was a genuine emergency, and it's not something they would have overlooked or something they would have it's not something they would have overlooked, but they still told me to follow the process. I went and applied for asylum, but I was still taken back and forth, and that money I was spending on the fare to the transport to go to and fro, it was really straining me, because at the same time I needed food for my kids, I needed to pay for that hotel room. So I really feel that the UNHCR really failed me, and the counter trafficking sector also failed me a lot, because the person I expected to help me, she bragged about the way she calls the shots in counter trafficking, and she said nobody will help me unless she says so, and she says she really hates me, a lot of things. So I gave up, and I just went to another country where I would not have to depend on the counter trafficking sector. I just went to another country and try to settle there. So for now, I'm not even relying on anybody in the counter trafficking sector, because if that lady says she calls the shots, then I don't see how I'm going to get the assistance, even if I want to. So currently, I'm just focusing on marketing my book to make the sales and try to use that money to establish myself in a new place, even where we are currently located, because there are not many restrictions. We can still settle down and wait for the next step. But at the same time, I really desire stability, especially for my kids. I can't keep moving from place to place, so I would rather settle where I currently am for now, until maybe I get any other opportunity, but not as a refugee. I've seen how refugees are looked down upon, and yeah, so I don't want that for me. I don't want that for my children. So I would rather just use my own skills, my own professionalism to get me a better position, maybe a work opportunity, but not as a refugee. It has been degrading enough until up to this point.
So that's your plan, to try and settle in the country that you are in now, and and sell your book and find a job and acquire residency status, I guess.
Where I am, I don't even need to acquire residency or anything, because the East Africa community is quite open to East Africans. So within the 5 countries, I can settle pretty much anywhere without having to worry about getting arrested or anything. But Rwanda is a different situation, because actually one of the reasons why I left Rwanda, Rwanda is the first country I ran to, but one of the reasons why I left Rwanda is because everybody who was willing to host us, they had to go take us for registration, yet they themselves were not registered. That is why it was hard for any individual to offer to host us, even if they really wanted to. So I had to stay in hotels, and hotels were really costly. And at that point, I said, I have no one to rely on. And this is the counter trafficking, and everybody I approach, they go to the same person that says they call the shots. And that person says they hate me because of my advocacy or things like that. So I also noticed that the counter trafficking is also a system. It's also a system by itself, and there's just a lot that needs to be worked upon, a lot of things that need to change, because the people we are running to for protection are the ones who are actually causing more harm than good. So right now I just want to stay where we are currently situated, because nobody has bothered us in any way, like until I find anything that is a threat to my life or my children's life, then now I can revisit, or I can reevaluate the situation. But where I am, I think I am totally fine for now. But if anything happens, I know I can trust both you and Garth, because you've really stood with me. You've just checking on me. It has meant a lot to me.
And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking to Patricia out there in Kenya. And we ask you and we urge you, our loyal listeners and followers, please, we don't always ask you to contribute to anything, but we ask you to do this for us if you can.
Yes, and I just posted a link to the book Greener Pastures in the Desert, which is available on Amazon. So I posted a link in the Facebook chat that you can check out if you're on Facebook. Check it out and purchase it, and the proceeds will of course go towards Patricia and her family.
Yes, you'll be doing a good deed. Let's pay it forward by supporting Patricia. Just buy a book, as I said. It's only you never know. It will come. The book will eventually get to your door, and you can have that to share with your generation. And for those of you youngsters who are joining us, especially from the Northwest region, who I see are predominant here this morning, children, and I could call you all children. I just urge you, please make the right decisions. Take advantage of what's being offered to you right now by the state. And we just hope that one day we will get Trinidad and Tobago to know exactly the amount of work that this conservation corps does for young people in Trinidad and Tobago. It's saving a lot of them right now. The crime situation may have been worse weren't for these programs. So please, let's look at it for what it is and appreciate that. And for Patricia, we ask you that you support Patricia. Please just go to Amazon. Natasha posted information on Facebook. Just purchase her book. It's less than 10 US. Once you have a credit card, you can do that. And let's see if we can, have her at least stable for now.
Support her from across the waters. This is the way that you can support a survivor of human trafficking.
And in keeping with the message from the UNODC this year, let's leave
no one behind.
Let's leave no one behind. And we don't want to hear anything happen to her untoward. But Patricia, before you go, would you say that your country has failed you in to some extent? And so many other trafficking victims?
Yes, I would say the country has failed us big time, because some of the people who run these agencies that traffic people are actually government officials. So when we call for legislation, when we call for protective measures, they are not taken seriously. Our cry is not taken seriously because the people who are meant to implement these strict rules are still the same ones who run these agencies. So I feel my country has really failed me. And my country has also failed me in the counter trafficking sector, knowing that just one person calls the shots and you cannot be assisted unless she says so. That really hurt me a lot. And in as much as I would want to continue with the advocacy, in as much as I would want to create awareness, it seems futile, because I mean well, but there are people who are in the counter trafficking, but the heart is not for protecting people, it's not for helping people, they are just there for their own benefit. So I feel that there's just a lot that needs to be changed, not just in my country, but in humanity as a whole. But I still feel that we are heading in the right direction when we make this, when we talk about these issues on a regular basis, not just on a day like today when it's the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. When we talk about it more regularly, we take it seriously, and it shows that it's something that needs to be addressed, rather than just talking about it once in a year and then forgetting about it until next year,
Absolutely. So, Patricia, we're going to let you go, and please stay in touch, and we will continue to try on our part to assist and support.
All right, thank you for having me on board today. I really had a good time interacting with you.
Yes, same here, Patricia, and we wish you Godspeed, my dear. May God cover you and your children as you make your way through this maze. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and then maybe you will end up on Oprah one day, talking about this and promoting and creating more awareness. We need more voices. We need more soldiers in the fight, and you are just a soldier now being trained to take on this fight. So thank you very much for your courage and your faith and your strength, and we will be in touch. Till we meet again. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye-bye. And folks, remember to join us on Facebook. To see the link where you can purchase Patricia's book on Amazon. And the name of the book is?
It's called Greener Pastures in the Desert.
Greener Pastures in the Desert. That's a very powerful name. And we really want to keep the love, keep supporting her. And we hope that you're learning something from what you heard this morning and what you're hearing. Youngsters, once again, I ask you all to please make the right decisions on your life. You see, the ages are between, let's say, 18 to 25 or 16 to 25. Very important time. Cherish it. Hold on to it. If you're not using drugs right now, pat yourself on the back and say thank God, and you're not missing anything. I guarantee you that. Because if you choose the road I chose, then you need to arm yourself with everything to survive that battle. And this time, it's not easy. Just got news of 2 youngsters below 25 getting killed last evening. Again, by way of the gun. And you want to know what the government doing for African people? Why African people killing African people so? What is it about us that we're not conscious, that we're just taking out each other one by one? Well,
I have my views on that as well, but just to be brief, I feel that is how the system is designed. It is designed to put us against each other, and we have to stoutly resist that temptation.
Or should we educate? Sorry.
No, just to think that way about each other, to assume and to believe the propaganda that is out there about ourselves.
Yeah, but look at this irony. The irony is the Emancipation Support Committee move African people on Emancipation time to another location, and then African police, of course, they might have one or two Eastern among them, but African police, I'm sure, predominantly move them.
Yes.
And run the patrons last evening.
Yes.
Send these people back home with goods to spoil.
Yep.
Because they tell them don't come back till Wednesday. That's how we looking out for each other. Come on. Isn't there a better way? As I said, to the people who moved the young man from Park, the police who moved the young man and Park, the police doing their job, right? But to the people who registering these vendors or would-be vendors, can't you give them something so that the police, just like the Minister of Works announced for COVID, okay, your license may expire during this time, you have a 6-month grace extension. Couldn't you, whether it's City Hall or regional corporation, whoever registers vendors, can't you give them a piece of paper? There was a video circulating the other day with a young man on Ryson Road and that short street, French Street, where they confiscated his pineapples. Now, what do you want him to do when you do that?
Well, people forget.
And then people will go and hunt down the same fella. Police will go and hunt him down, who they just took away his goods and throw it away, or maybe share it among themselves, whatever they do with it, or keep it for evidence. And if he decide, okay, I trying, and I have to eat, you hear a child crying home, he going to commit crime, the same police is running down and hold him.
Correct.
And lock him up.
But
and send him to prison. All you understand the connection now?
Yes, and the police, don't forget the police is an arm of the state.
Yeah, but the police doing the job.
The
I don't
police,
understand.
the police is an arm of the state.
Yeah,
so if we're talking about what the state is doing for African people, we have to include the police in that.
Okay, fine. But then there's something happens before the police intervenes, which is the vendor going to register.
Yes.
Right. What
and
I'm saying, the people
from a
who
state
register
agency, which is the corporation.
Right. So then why wouldn't the state agency, which is the corporation, put out an announcement that while vendors wait for registration certificates, you can check they are required to produce on demand a receipt or a note saying that they are waiting on this registration card or certificate. Why can't the regional corporation do that for them? And so that will stop the police, another arm of the state, from getting involved.
That's not a business. They don't care. It's not their friend or family who is selling on the street. So why should they prioritize that?
But it makes more sense because then you see, but they don't see themselves as contributing to reduce crime.
No.
What you can doing is contributing to escalate crime.
Correct.
By doing that.
Correct.
Or by not doing that.
Correct.
But they're not seeing that.
Correct.
And that is what's so painful. Teresa never said, God, we do know the facts of what happened before implicating the what?
The ESA.
What are you talking about?
Yes, but the vendors are the surroundings.
No, right. Well, what I'm saying, but I just said that, ma'am, or so, whoever you are, that we did not get a reason why the vendor. Okay, I stand corrected. After this break, we're going to show you, give you an update. Remember that video we showed you, or the spike drink from the guy who's tried to spike the girls' drink in a club?
Yes.
Right. We're going to give you an update on that and an explanation from the young lady what happened. All right? For this person who asked this question, anybody out there who got a valid reason for the vendors having to move, please share it with us. Because I did not hear it. I did not hear, well, we have to turn this where the spots of the vendors are into a village for the chief who's coming here. We did not
10 vehicles that are to park there.
Correct. We did not hear anything. All we heard is that the vendors have to move. So, ma'am, if you have an explanation, please share it with us. Now, Lord, fix it, Jesus. Help me, Jesus. I was just, and for the African people who passing your mouth and the vendors and saying, but them boldface, they're not paying rent and they're getting things for free and they're getting land for free to sell the thing. Let me ask you a question. And it's mostly renters saying that, If your landlord come and tell you they're getting the place for a year for free, where you live, and you're not going to pay rent, wouldn't you take it? Or you could tell the landlord, don't be stupid, I have to pay every month? You tell me. You answer that question for me, and then I will take the explanation over the vendors. But for now, if you're getting a place to sell and you don't have to pay, that helps. Just like you would like your landlord to stop your rent for a year or 2 years.
Anybody would take advantage of that.
Anybody would take advantage of that. So that is not, I don't want to hear that. Okay? what we're looking at is survival of people in a place already where the supermarkets jacking up their prices every single day.
And when everything is stacked against you in the
Everything
first
is
place,
stacked.
especially if you're poor in this place.
You have to go and buy books every year. When we could have handed down books before, we can't do that again. So if somebody could make $1 to support that and help them with that, why deny them that? So, ma'am, if you have an explanation why the Emancipation Support Committee asked the vendors to move, we didn't hear it, please share it with us. Let's go to a break, and when we return, we're going to give you an update on that spiked drink situation where the young lady almost got a date rape drug in her system. We'll be back.
Cappy, talk to you now, boy. Got a small work for you to do. Make a quick 10 G's. We go do for me.
10 G's? Where's that how I do there, boy?
What you doing? Taking your boat, run up the islands, pick up some people and then bring them back here for me. That's all you have to do.
That's something like human trafficking, boy. That's a serious crime. I can't make that.
Trafficking in human beings is a serious violation of a person's human rights. It violates a person's right to freedom of movement, freedom of choice, freedom of speech, and freedom of identity. It is a heinous crime which affects local, regional, and international peace and security. A victim of human trafficking is subjected to many types of abuse. The crime destroys a person's dignity and self-worth. Victims often feel hopeless, are suicidal, and are stigmatized in their communities. Child victims are deprived of their rights to education, play, and social interactions. They're essentially robbed of their childhood, and that can never be regained once those years have passed. If we do little or nothing to fight against human trafficking in our country, we can face economic sanctions from international agencies and partners. Our country will be losing money. Doing little or nothing to fight against human trafficking will tarnish our country's international image and, most of all, the value we place on human life. Human trafficking is no respecter of persons. Anyone can be a victim. So let us all strive to safeguard human life and dignity in Trinidad and Tobago.
We are the Counter-Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security, Trinidad and Tobago, safeguarding human life.
Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Yes, and thank you very much for staying with us. Now, folks, remember, we have nothing against the SC, you know.
Of course
Zakia
not.
Wadada is a friend of the family, you know.
Yes.
So, what I'm saying is that we never got an explanation as to who gave the info. Will that make it, what you send there for the message you responded there, sister, is even more confusing because who would have made that request for the vendors to move? It has never happened before. Those vendors are there even during carnival time when we have more traffic on a daily basis to go into the carnival village.
Yeah.
And they are part of the landscape now.
Yes.
Let's understand that. So what was the reason and who did the instructions came from for them to move for 7 days? For 7 days. You wanted people to just stop living for 7 days. And in a time like this, that's crazy.
Yep.
So this is all we've been wondering. But again, is the whole black people looking out for black people? And it's ironic that it's around Emancipation time that would happen.
Yeah, it's
it's confusing.
We need to get our
facts
straight about
yes,
this.
but
Who is responsible for what?
And I would like to know the reason.
And the reason.
What is
the reason according to Cardi B?
Not gotten that as yet. Okay, so to give you an update, let's go to video E.
Yep.
To give you an update, folks, let's hear from the young lady who, and thank you, Donna Chase, for joining us from Southwest Region. And we are always happy to have young ones listening to us because you are the ones who they are planning for, and we are trying to prepare you for that attack.
Yes.
All right? So let's go to that.
So we're going to go to this video. We're going to show the actual incident first, and then the young lady will come in to explain what she found. Actually, it was persons who reached out to her to identify the young men who tried to assault her.
Shortman, could you give us that update, please? For those of you who are just joining us, we thank you very much for reaching out to us on Facebook and YouTube and contributing to the conversation. We take some calls before we wrap up, of course.
Yep.
But we just wanted to give you this update on this date rape drug that this young lady was almost fell victim to. And it's pretty interesting. They found the guy actually. They caught the perpetrator.
Yes.
All
It's
right?
labeled as video D.
Much as this guy put something in my drink.
Hi, my name is Wanja Kimani. I am
someone
hearing, if you're listening to us on the radio, is this young woman is dancing in a club. She has her phone pointed at her while she's dancing, and a man comes from behind her to slip something in her drink, and the drink falls over. Here's what she has to say now.
So that's his picture. His full name is Howard Cohen Ricardo. He lives in Tampa. Here are more pictures of him. He goes to this church where he volunteers, I guess, and all the people with like hearts, those are girls and women that he works alongside or like volunteers alongside at church. He's married with a kid, kids I think went out on his Facebook, but obviously I'm covering their faces because this has nothing to do with them, but that is him. And then his friend, the blonde one in the video, was also in on it. Then I messaged him, he blocked me, but I also found his picture and his details. They both live in Tampa, and this is his picture. So that's his picture. His name is Roberto Hernandez. Yep, that's him. Another picture of his face, that's him. But he currently has blonde hair. So that's his Facebook and Snapchat. Those are the two men that colluded to drug my drink.
Y'all too? Oh, y'all is going to jail.
So yes, so the young man, actually we thought at first that the blonde guy was not in on it. Apparently he was. So these two gentlemen were working together to try and drug this young lady as she was enjoying herself in the club. And fortunately, social media did its thing, as it is wont to do, and people reached out to her to identify both men in the video. And of course, she has made the relevant report to the police. And I appreciate the fact that she did not, that she did the right thing by reporting them.
Yes.
And making them out on
Yes.
social media, because again, this is a married man with children. What are you doing in a club trying to drug people?
In church too, involved in the church.
And this is what the point I was making earlier about men who look very ordinary and average going to church and family man and all of this.
And
But
you-
in the meantime, you in a club trying to drug a woman?
And to do God
To do
knows
them
with
what?
What is it? What, for organ trafficking, sex trafficking, human
on.
trafficking? What? This is what you did trying to do a human being, and you going to church Sunday morning after the club with your family?
Mm-hmm.
Come on. Think about what you're doing. No wonder why so many families crumbling and falling apart because of this zombie you all taking back home with you all, you know, and pretending to be normal. Come on, let's do better than that. And somebody, Cheryl Henry said, Ekaro, Garth and Natasha, that was the well, it's something blocking this here, right? But the sermon this morning at St. Michael's Church in Wendy Fitzgerald Boulevard. Well, somebody, we on the same wavelength. Let's take some calls, 622-3937. Let's hear what you have to say. Remember, you had a question to answer. Should we name and shame and show their pictures? No. When you arrest, don't arrest the victim alone. Arrest the perpetrator. And
Yes.
somebody left a message. Sean Coleman, explain, because you sent me a voice note, but you could call and explain further what you're trying to say about the vendor situation and the Savannah. I'm just saying that around this time is a weird time to do something like that. Emancipation time, when we're trying to displace the salt of the earth to accommodate what? For 1 day or 2 days? What you all wanted a week. Again, we have not gotten anybody out there who got an explanation for this. Please share it with us, and we have to be fair and share it with the listener.
Yep.
What are they going to do with that spot? Hello, good morning.
Morning, Garth and Natasha.
Morning.
Morning.
You know, Garth, what you were saying there just now about, or Natasha was saying about the person in the video and going to church. I was looking at a video last night with this guy who died, young boss. And he and a man, he was talking about who is preacher and who want to meet him in hotel. And I'm saying, what? And this thing was unbelievable. He said, oh, you better don't let me expose her for all you. Yes? This is crazy. He said, imagine you saying he's a Baptist preacher and that is what you're doing?
Yep.
Oh, my God, girl, I don't know. It was unbelievable when I saw that. Yeah, man, if they start a Lego, some other man video we make, some people, no wonder why they had to kill him, yes? Anyway, good show, good program, and you all keep up the good work.
Thank you, Ms.
Bye.
Martin.
Thank you.
Okay, Annette, it was said that. But then last evening on the news, and you may get a follow-up on the 12 o'clock news, that police went at their new location where the vendors eventually agreed to go and sell, lights set up and everything. The police went and shut them down. That was the latest report. So I'm asking again, why isn't the right hand knowing what the left hand is doing? Because if the police, unless the police decided to be vindictive, the police doing their job. The police decided that, but then why go through all that elaborate thing and then the police still has the power to come and shut them down?
Correct.
We're not making sense. Ironically, on Emancipation time. So the African people have to go back home and leave all those people. A patron could go somewhere else and get food to buy. But what about the food that was prepared to sell to them? What are these people going to do with them? All yeah? Because the police tell them to return until Wednesday. You know? Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hi, morning.
Morning.
Ganta Natasha?
Yes, you're live.
Yes, you know, you're talking about married men. I have a friend who's a married man, and I asked him the same thing too. You know, why you doing it? I know what he said?
What?
He said, He said he don't want to buy any birthday present, he don't want to buy any Christmas present, and the woman then cannot call his wife.
Yeah, but so he don't buy birthday and Christmas present for his wife?
Yeah, but you want to buy for the prostitute.
Okay.
And the woman cannot call his wife.
All right.
Okay. So what does that say about him?
But he's a slack man.
Okay, good.
And you understand the connotation of taking home that aura, that
Yes.
spiritual.
That was so instructive when you said that.
Yeah, because they are sexually, apart from sexually transmitted diseases, they are spiritually transmitted diseases too, you know. So, but thank you,
I hope you
sir.
try to talk him out of it.
Hello, good morning.
Certainly I will.
Please do.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, my brother. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. God.
Morning.
And Natasha. God, boy, let me tell you something. You know, a whole scene was given to me. Don't try to see yourself in other people. You're a genuine soul, brother. So I live by that now, so nothing and anybody can disappoint me anymore. But the Savannah just last week there, you know, it have a wicked corn soup, you know, and it's a nice, and I tell the family, let me go and, you know, have a little dinner, you know, out, and there's be hundreds of people there patronizing just last Sunday. You know, it's a nice time for family time as well, too, especially with the black homes. You know, so I huddle everybody and I said, let me go up in the Savannah, and let me go and see, you know, my niece and everything, and see who we could patronize and, you know, at least put a little dollar in somebody's pocket. You know, so I don't understand. They say that they was going to relocate them, and now you hear that they have to move. So, you know, 7 days is a long time, and as I said, there are hundreds of people. It's not just a food court, it's a family time. When people come out with you, there's a lot of children, people with their family. In that time, you know, from about, you know, 6, about 10. And guys, I didn't know, and Tasha, I didn't know they moved the guy, a real cool guy by opposite Republic Bank, they who sell the fruits. I didn't know they moved him, because I haven't been in town there for a little while.
Yes, they moved him.
Yeah, all suckers, you know?
And you understand what I'm saying, man, that the regional corporation, at least while they're waiting on this registration card or whatever it is, give them something to show that it's in process.
Yes, because he really out there, a couple times I patronize him, as I left the church and stuff and things that. But God, boy, let me tell you something here. We had to ask ourselves a question as African people. I don't see it have anything that the government have to do against socially and vocationally. We had to ask ourselves genuinely if we really love one another, or that is just a talk thing, or when it could benefit.
Yes.
Because if we love one another, we will deal with conflict in a rational way. And you know, friends I lost in our little Port of Spain area, and people who I know, you know, by the gun, by just going in the wrong place at the wrong time, some men wasn't involved. Right? So if we love one another, it's not just talk, right? And you could just take a gun and blow off our next man's head. Alright? I have a brethren who still can't give the death of his son. He just went across the line up in the Bond Road area and never returned because some men went with our next man, and he from that area. That is the stupidity that's going on. So God, I'll just end by saying, and we don't only do it by the gun, no, Natasha. We just do it with the mouth too. Tear down and destroy. Because your tongue is a sword too. When you could resolve and deal with things in an amicable and bring peace, you decide to tear me and God apart. That is what we like. So we had to ask ourselves a question as Emancipation, if we really love one another. Thanks, people. Morning.
Thank you very much, Sue. Tom, put me on, please.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks very much, Sue. Violence can be done by a mouth as well, of course.
No, and you know what? It seems as though we have lost our will and ability to settle things amicably and not go after each other. Yeah. And even us here too, people you wouldn't believe, you know, we try to partner again with the judiciary just to do what the SIU did last couple of Sundays. And they refused, and I have to say they refused because we gave them enough time. And it's a domino effect. That coming together and working together, it is not happening. And they don't see that as killing. Yes, killing going on in the streets. But then there are people who in positions of authority don't have to shoot you with a gun, you know. They just have to send an email, make a phone call, or send a WhatsApp. And that is it, you know.
Or just check up a document under a pile of files and forget about it.
That's killing me. Because when you see I come to you and I have a family to take care of, especially when I came out of prison and trying to turn my life around. And I come to society, to help me do that. Instead of that, you sending me back home depressed. What about making my home happy? Remember we talk about a happy home, a happy community, happy country? But yet, you killing me because you can, but not with a gun. But with the position that you have.
That's right.
Think about it. It's just the same killing. And you kill that young man's chances of taking care of his family.
Yep.
Now, we call on the regional corporation, give vendors or would-be vendors, while they're waiting for that permanent document, give them a letter, give them a receipt, give them something that the police can see and see that they are qualified or they are they have gotten the blessings from the regional corporation to vend. That way, you let a life continue, because now that young man could go back home.
Or better yet, just process the people documents in suitable time. How about that?
Yeah.
Can we try and be efficient?
Why it must take months for somebody to get something that they paid for?
That should not happen.
Months?
That
Come on,
should
man.
not happen.
Come on, let's do better by each other. And here, listen to this: the Emancipation village have vendors. The vendors outside would kill the sales in the village.
Oh, yes, I did
and
think about that.
And so those vendors who are often who are there often should have stick to the notice they were given. Okay.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yes.
No, but this is a message I'm reading from someone. I don't know how.
No, I get the point. I get the
Right.
point, because there is food. There is a food court in the village itself. Yes, so I can understand why the ESC may not have wanted the vendors on the outside to stay there for the duration of the village.
So we can't get along.
Well,
We
maybe
can't
you bring
eat
them
and
inside, but if you bring them inside, that would incur an additional cost, because
live and let live. What about living and let live? Not everybody wants to go in the Emancipation village. There are people who want to go by Savannah and chill out. So
Yeah.
let the people who enter your village, let them have food in there, and let the ones who don't want to enter the village have food outside. What about that? Live and let live. That's how I see it. I could be wrong. Hello, good morning.
Yeah.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
So let's understand something. Right now, you have men pissing all over the city, taking out their penis and pissing all over the city. Nobody is addressing that. You also have a bunch of African people lying down in front of a very wealthy bank. Nobody is dealing with that. In addition, you have people parking all over the road by the hydrant, 2 inches from the corner, all over the city when the day come. Nobody not doing nothing about that. So why would they even address these permits and all kind of stuff like that? Why would they? Now, if you are an organization and thing, and you do have some kind of influence, well, influential people deal with influential people. That is how it goes. So they will deal with that.
Right.
But there's another concern on the Savannah. The people on the Savannah, you don't get a deal. They're getting a big deal in the public space. And everything there is probably priced higher than the price you will pay when you go to a place where somebody probably have a big rent, electricity overhead, all of these things. They probably have to pay workman's, NIS for their employees and stuff like that. So you're not getting any break on the Savannah, and that and all, nobody ain't putting no checks and balance in place for that. They probably pay a little stipend or something.
Yeah.
But it's the same greed all around. They're getting a big break in the public space, and if they could just raise the prices where they could maximize on their profit potential, that is what they will do. So when the time comes for those who have influence to also peddle their influence, what you expect to happen? This is exactly what you're seeing happening.
Thank you, my brother. Again, as I said, live and let live. Live and let live. I cannot be inside having a good time knowing that I have 20 people who go on home or cannot sell their stuff until I finish having a good time.
But
no.
God, remember
live
that
and
the
let live.
people who are selling in the village have to pay a fee for that spot, and they are
I understand. Yeah.
And they're paying that fee because they have access to a certain number of people. So I understand the need, the desire to eliminate or to give them their money's worth in terms of the money that they've paid to sell in the village, that they wouldn't have any competition from people right outside the village, literally.
Okay,
we want to encourage people to go in the village and purchase from
what about the people
vendors there.
Right, but what about the people who have no interest in going in the village? What are they going to eat? Just go in the village to buy something and come back?
Yes, why not?
So it's free access to the village?
Yes,
it's free access,
before a certain time, yes.
But again, but we're going to leave some behind. We're talking about not leaving
but
people
again,
behind.
But again, it's just for a week. And these people are there 24 or 357
You could
days.
not eat for a week? Unless you're fasting?
I mean,
come on, no.
If you're there for 99% of the time and they ask you, okay, could you for this 1%, could you not be here? You think that's reasonable?
Nobody give them a next space and they were still moved.
Well, we don't know the reason for that.
Yeah, we don't know, and this is what heartbreaking, that we're leaving people behind on emancipation time.
Yeah.
That's my point. Let's try and help all. Hello, good morning. Take a final call. Hello, good morning.
Morning, Natasha.
Morning. I'm not mad at the
Good
committee.
program as usual. God, I understand what you say. Live and let live. They could have leave the people on the outside to sell. Them people shouldn't have moved. And let the CAFA come on and the Emancipation Committee control the thing on the inside. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Everybody has to eat. And I like this. If I don't know why African people that operate that way, they shouldn't have moved. Because if it was, I just talk it straight to me. If it was Indian people, they would have never moved. I don't know what they're moving for. Let the man from Africa, Ghana, wherever he's coming from, come and see the kind of cuisine we have and come and purchase too.
All of that.
Who feel about inside and who feel about outside, go outside and buy.
All of that.
Look, you're moving the people now and now the police coming to move. So they're making a living for the few days and now it's school, they have to buy books. So I don't like that.
Let him walk among the people.
Have a blessed day.
You know, thank you, my brother. No, I am sorry, Natasha. I would think.
I think some concession could have been made on the vendors' part as well.
Natasha, if I was in charge of that, I would have thought of the vendors, the stuff they have to buy, the family they have to take care of, and don't tell them stay on for 7 days.
No, but I give them enough notice.
Not going to do that to them.
Why? If you can sell there for the whole entire year, why? What is 1 week out of a year?
Okay, now you think vendors make this hototo money every night, right?
No, they don't.
Exactly.
But I'm saying
so. 7 days without earning any income could have a triple down.
And that is something that is a part of business and something that you plan for. So if you have enough notice, you can recoup. You can set up somewhere else or just plan for the time after that period.
We have to go, folks. Thank you very much.
I don't know.
You've been listening to Dependency, and we have major news coming up next with Odika.
Yes.
James.
Remember, today is the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. If you can, go to the event around the Savannah this afternoon. The walk.
All right. Thank you.
I would like people to